You're listening to the Broadway Podcast Network.
Be very clear about your intention in sharing. Make it very clear what you are expecting back, because people have their own ideas. Because there are other people who would say, well, I wouldn't share anything unless I'm ready for feedback. So they must want feedback. Here, I'll give them all the feedback. I'm being a good friend. There's a lot of people who respond to your creative shares like that. And it can be soul crushing.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to Was It Chance, the podcast about embracing opportunity and taking intentional risk for your creative life. I'm Heather Vickery.
And I'm still Alan Seals. Don't make fun of me.
It's so fun. And I'm Alan Seals. I never know what we're going to
Alan Seals. Welcome to our podcast.
Yeah, because that's the opposite.
Hi, Dave.
Oh, our poor guest.
I love it. I haven't smiled this much before 8:09 in the morning in a long time. So,
well, who is that? That's just wait. We didn't finish our intro.
You didn't finish it.
Oh, my bad. Heather and I started out as two perfect strangers and met by chance and embraced opportunity. Listen in as we chat with other successful people about the risks they've taken to put themselves on a path to creative success. Success. I still love Success. I will not let it go because Beetlejuice is a great show.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Our guest is Amber Trueblood, and she doesn't know what the fuck she just got herself into. I can tell by her face, which, dear listeners, you can't see. But listen, I think she's super well equipped for this because Amber traveled across the country supporting her two oldest sons as they starred in the hit musical School of Rock. And along the way, she picked up some lessons. She was traveling, they were homeschooling, and they eventually made their way into her new book, The Unflustered Mom. This book teaches moms, and I'm assuming all parents, practical and achievable strategies for reducing anxiety and overwhelm. But Amber's not just a traveling homeschooling mom. She's a licensed marriage and family therapist, a best-selling author, a speaker. And she doesn't just have two sons, she has four. Hence I think she's equipped to handle Alan for the next hour.
We shall see.
I am worse than four boys? No way.
You are at right up there? What? I don't know.
What would your mom say?
My mom?
Yeah.
About me?
Yeah.
She would say, go outside and make a video. Whenever I annoyed her as a kid, we had a giant camcorder.
Beautiful.
Like VHS over the shoulder camcorder. And she would say, just go make a video.
Yeah.
Go make a video. And I'd get all the neighborhood kids.
That's
and
brilliant,
we would make
actually.
Shit.
And that's how you got here.
Exactly.
And that is how I was made.
Thank you, Mom.
Yes. So tell us more. Like this is one of those QVC introductions. Like, but wait, there's more.
Well, I can. I said that Amber is a licensed marriage and family therapist, an author, a speaker. She has over 25 years of experience in mental health and co-founded, I'm actually really excited about this, MECA project to help teens and young adults thrive mentally and emotionally through conscious awareness. Like, I feel like this is my whole life right now. I have 4 daughters, so we can match up there. And Amber has been featured in People, Oprah Magazine, CNN, Motherhood, Maternity, Good Day LA. I mean, the list goes on and on. We're going to start this blessed interview. Welcome, Amber.
I saw you censor yourself right there. I love it.
Motherfucking interview.
Let's do it.
Well, so 4 boys and holy shit. I mean, you're up before 8 a.m. They're all at school now, I guess.
But
right?
homeschool.
2 of them. Well, actually, I think the other 2 left. I took 2 early, and then my husband took the other 2. Looks like they're gone.
Okay.
The house is quiet momentarily.
So no more homeschooling.
Correct. This was our first year back to traditional school in like 4-ish years.
So was the homeschool a product of the show life, the touring life?
That's a good question. Looking back, it was all like kind of magically conceived that way. But at the time, that was not the plan looking forward. So at the time, I'm really obsessed with learning, not education, but like learning and growth, like wanting to learn. And there came a point in their education at school where I saw this kind of their their glow, their fire up, like attitude towards learning start to fade. And I was like, oh no, school will not take away my kids' natural love for learning. Like, I will not let school do that to them. And it made me sad for them. And so I brought it up to my husband because we traveled some for his work when the kids were really little. And I said, I'm kind of maybe thinking about possibly, homeschooling. What do you think? And he was like, let's do it. Let's pull them out. And I was like, wait. I'm not ready for this yet. I have some planning. I know. I kind of
looking at the title for my book. I don't have the table of contents yet.
I kind of wanted you to say, we'll see, And so we trialed it a little bit over the summer. We were traveling. And so I said, well, let's just see how this feels, how it might work. And it worked. It worked really well. So we were only homeschooling for about 6 months before we ended up on the tour. And so it ended up being a beautiful transition because I don't know that I could have jumped from one directly to the other because it was a huge change.
Wow. And your kids formed the band Hanson and Mbop, and the rest is history. That's all the time we've got.
So you're only half joking there because at the end of this story is craziness. So we'll get there. We will get there.
Okay, well, continue then because I'm fascinated. I have 2 boys of my own, 6.5, almost 7 and 8.5 now. And they like learning, but they don't like practicing.
Yeah.
They like to be good at things immediately, but they don't like working at them. And I guess for me, I want to create the family band or the family puppet show or, something that makes them learn without realizing that they're doing it. So looping this all back to how your kids got going, where did the instruments come in? Where did the band come in? Where did School of Rock come in? And how close are you with Jack Black?
Okay. So in that order, I'm going to do it in the opposite order. I am not close with Jack Black. We met him one time. Okay. So, my oldest son is a drummer. And when he was really, really little, he could play the drums. And, it's funny to say that because anybody, I'm going to say, especially with little boys, will say, well, of course, you put a drum set in front of a little kid and they're going to really want to make some noise. But we noticed that, it seemed to be more than that. We got him his first acoustic drum set from a neighborhood yard sale at 2.5. And so I had an acoustic drum set in my house, full, giant one, not a Toys R Us one. Yeah. So, we can get into my mental health issues later. No kidding. And neither my husband or I are musicians. So I always have to start by saying that because people always ask us. I'm a writer. He is a photographer. So there's a lot of creative stuff going on all the time in our house, but it's not necessarily music, or it wasn't until the last few years. So the other thing I'll tell you in a minute remind me about pregnancy drumming. Okay. So, okay. Got it. In a minute though. So we would watch something on YouTube and we would learn a beat and it would take us, 45 minutes. And then we'd say, oh, okay, Cameron, it goes like this. And he would say, oh, like this? And he would do it. And I thought, oh, shoot, this is not going to work. So he just kept drumming, got better. And then, all 4 boys are pretty close in age. They're within 5 years and 2 months.
All 4 of them are within 5 years and 2 months?
Wow. Yeah. Which doesn't seem physically possible.
No, it sure doesn't.
I mean, I've done the math and there's no twins. And it adds up, which doesn't seem possible because you're pregnant for almost 10 months for each one.
Yeah.
It's
we talk about magical conception.
I was
earlier,
there's not a lot of breathing in between.
No.
Yeah. And
there's something else, but
on
not breathing.
Purpose.
We're going to do that.
So he started drumming. And when he was about 8 or 9, we had a neighbor who her kids did a lot of theater. They were very serious about theater. And she came to me and she said, there's this Broadway production called School of Rock based on the Jack Black movie. And it's doing well in New York, and they're looking to start a touring company, and they're looking for kids who are musicians first and then actors second. They weren't looking for actor kind of Disney kids who they can teach to pretend to play drums, or even who could play drums. They were looking for musicians first. And so I sent a video. My husband's a photographer. I have 8 million videos. So I just sent one. I didn't even tell anybody in my house, because I thought, what are the odds, right? This is ridiculous. And they immediately wrote me back and said, okay, can you have him learn this script, learn this song, and like to sing, and then learn this song on drums? Now, he had never learned to read music for drumming yet at this point. I mean, he was like 8. But my husband his job was in the entertainment industry as a photographer. So he knew how to okay, I know how to coach him through learning these lines. Like, I could do this. So, and he also made the video really funny and entertaining. Like, he put all the boys in it and did it outside. And, he put his creative, kind of twist on it, which I think helped. And they said, great, can you come to New York? And we were in Los Angeles at the time. And I thought, oh, okay, this is going to be a crazy story about how one time when you were 8 or 9, you went and auditioned for a Broadway show. That'll be a fun story to tell later in life, I guess. It's not that fun of a story, but I thought that would be the end of it. I also didn't want to take an 8-year-old all the way across the country for a 15-minute audition. That's a lot of pressure and a lot of expense. Mm-hmm. So instead, and this gives you a good little snippet into my brain, instead we took all 4 kids out of school for a week and said, let's just go explore New York. We had never been there before with the boys. And then on Tuesday afternoon at 1:15, you'll just go into this room. You'll do a few things for some strangers. That sounds strange. You'll play some music for some... That's terrible. I'm so sorry.
Your face was hilarious. You were like, that's not what I meant.
That sounds awful. I would only say that here. Okay. And
good thing we're not recording.
And then I also, because I happened to know that there were 2 kids on the Broadway cast that were brothers. And in that time, between when Cameron started playing drums, my second, who was just a year and a half younger than him, started playing the piano and got fairly good fairly fast. And so I sent kind of half jokingly, a video of Dylan playing piano and said, hey, if you need any more kids, I got a few more where this came from, and this one plays piano. And so they actually gave him a slot at the audition too, even though he was far too young and he was tiny. My kids are, well, not anymore, but they were very small for their age. And so, which is good in the theater world, right? And in TV and all that stuff. Everybody wants to look younger than they are. So they did the audition. We explored New York. We had a blast. We came home, and then they kind of kept calling us back for more auditions, in different parts of the country and things. And we went back to New York one more time. And the second time we went back to New York, they said, so it's looking close. And if this happens, we'll need you to be in Austin in 2 weeks.
Oh, hey.
To jump in and go. And, one thing that is different about Jamie and I, my husband, is because he had worked in the entertainment industry for some time, and because we had traveled for movies in the past, we knew the pressure that it can put on a family and on a relationship to do something like that, to be away from each other for 6 months.
Yeah.
It's more pressure for everybody involved, right? It's more stress, it's more challenge. And so we knew from the beginning, it didn't take more than probably a 10-minute conversation, that if we were going to do this, we were all in. We would all go and make it a family adventure, or we would skip it. We just weren't willing to risk the stress and pressure on our relationship or on our family to do it a different way.
That's smart.
Very.
So
you became the Griswolds.
Kind of, yeah. So we put our house on, or VRBO at the time. And the person, the woman that used to help us with babysitting and childcare, I had her managing the VRBO. And I just said, I'll give you a cut if you just take care of it. Manage the VRBO, get, clean in between or whatever. And that way I don't have to work on it. And, so she VRBO'd our house, and we, all 6 of us, hit the road running.
Well,
Wow.
when did you fluster then? Because you've been
No, she's
flourishing
the
from the beginning of the
unflustered
story to the
mom.
end.
Well, so I flustered before that, and I became very, very adamant about learning the tools. I thought I did not have all of these children on purpose in a row to be miserable.
Just full stop. I did
Right?
not have all these children on purpose.
On
Full stop.
purpose in a row to
She
be
did.
to be miserable,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
And to be barely breathing and surviving. I thought this was not the plan. So there's got to be a better way. And so slowly I began to learn and use and test my own, strategies so that I could not only survive it and do what I was hoping was a good job, but also like have fun, enjoy myself. And so, that's what I share with moms today is, how do you figure out for yourself what strategies you need, both like preventatively, like what do you need to do kind of every day, every week to keep your, what I call your emotional bank account full or as full as possible. And then what are the strategies you can use like in the moment when you're about to lose your shit, or when you're so angry, or when you're really sad, or when you're feeling isolated? Like there are things you can do for all of those different categories of experiences, not to get super serious. But and so I utilized those, and then I learned a lot more while we were on the road. So I could tell you tons of things that I did while we were on the road, one of which was writing my first book while we were on the road. And I say this because it was a passion creative project for me. I needed something that was just for me, that was creative, that was fun, and that had nothing to do with serving or supporting anybody else.
What's that book called?
That one's called Stretch Marks.
Okay. We'll put links in here because I know everybody's curious.
We're going to take a quick break. Stay tuned for more of the episode.
This podcast is brought to you by Marvel Studios' Secret Invasion, now streaming only on Disney+. Nick Fury has returned in his most thrilling mission yet. An invasion is here, and there's no telling who the invaders are. They can take the form of anyone and have infiltrated our society and government at the highest levels. The only thing we do know, trust no one. Trust nothing. In Marvel's most riveting series yet, prepare for war. Prepare for fury. In Marvel Studios' Secret Invasion. Don't miss the 6-episode event, now streaming only on Disney+.
And now we're back.
So many people are going to hear that and think, man, that's a lot of extra work to be giving yourself when clearly you have a lot going on. But I love the perspective of, but it was just for you, and it was an outlet for you and an opportunity for you to focus inward and shut out all the noise.
And because, in this book, I'm pointing to it, nobody can see, but in the Unflustered Mom book, I talk about the framework of the 5 anxiety styles, and my anxiety style is called the dynamo. And dynamos are very, very driven by achievement, by doing, by acknowledgement, by action. And so, which can serve us in a lot of ways, it'd be fabulous, and also can not serve us. So it's like figuring that out, right? It's your gift, but also can be your downfall if you push it too hard. But for me, I know if I didn't have that personal project while we were on the road, I would have been super grouchy. I would have been resentful. Like all I'm doing is running around like a crazy person for everyone else to make everybody else's life, go smooth and easy. Like I was booking all the Airbnbs, all the, not Ramada. Does that exist anymore? What are those? Residence Inns. Residence Inns, all the flights, the car rentals. We had to rent 2 cars in each locations because, during the summer months, we had 9 checked bags. And during the winter months, that amplified or, went up to 12 checked bags because of boots and gloves and And then I'll have to tell you, I mean, we could talk an hour just about the packing and travel days.
I cannot imagine.
The packing, I just wrote a chapter. I have my 3rd book in the works right now about this tour life. And in it, I talk about how we traveled with 5 skateboards with, of course, 5 helmets and pads. So that takes up, I don't know how many suitcases, scooters. So there weren't a lot, and books, and a lot of books. So everybody had
a playroom,
1 pair of shoes, and then we just wore them until they had so many holes in them that we'd go get a replacement.
You would all 6 of you wore 1 pair of shoes.
Okay.
That
See,
sounds really
this is what we have to deal with. That's yeah. No, but that's smart
I'm just
because
listening.
most of us are like, well, we'll pack the running shoes and the flip flops and the whatever, and you're like, you got 1 pair.
There
of
was
shoes.
no space.
Yeah.
So it's knowing so for me, one of the, tips I have for parents and overwhelm and stress is you got to know what's important to you and do that. If you align your time, your energy, your attention, and your resources with what's really important to you, then you're not overwhelmed, you're excited. You're not depleted, you're like energized. Because the stuff that you're focused on, that you're thinking about, that you're spending your limited time and energy on is stuff that's important to you. So it was important to me that these boys have access to skate parks to get that energy out and do something they loved that wasn't music. And so every week, Jamie would find the nearest, guitar center for practice, the nearest skate park for, exercise and fun. And then we would go visit all the museums. So homeschooling was that plus maybe a weekly math tutor session on Zoom. And that's what school looked like for 16 months.
Wow. I mean, that's very cool because it's planned out and it's channeled. You've channeled that anxiety into productivity. And you're speaking my language totally, the dynamo anxiety type. What are the other? That's totally me.
Okay.
Totally me.
So
because I get that. Like I have to be stretched to the limit. Yeah. I have to fill my schedule, but I always have to have something in there that's just for me that I'm creating and building.
Yes. So dynamos are focused like that. And where it serves you, that's great. Let's celebrate that. And then where is it maybe not serving you? So dynamos tend to, I'm a dynamo also, live more up in our head and in the future than in the present moment, or really like sometimes we can have difficulty tuning into our intuition or our heart a lot. And so a lot of the practices I recommend to dynamos are about that, like connecting, slowing down, getting quiet, which is so hard. And I don't mean just quiet, right, from your mouth. I mean just like quiet in this cacophony in your brain. And the benefits are really amazing. But the life lesson for dynamos, and then I'll go on to the other 4, is really knowing that you are already enough. You're already enough. So you don't have to accomplish more to feel you're going to keep accomplishing because it's fun, because you love it, because it fires you up, right? Which is awesome. But you don't have to do it to prove anything to anyone. You are awesome. You are enough as you are done now. Everything else is just frosting on the cake.
Did we just become best friends?
I was like,
is that helpful?
Making my little heart flutter because Alan needs to hear this. So that's good.
Oh, so read my book. And
I will.
Good.
I will.
So what are the other types?
Oh, okay. So I'm going to list them. You tell me what you want to talk about. The lover, the fighter, the executive, and the visionary. That's what's left.
We do short.
And then I wouldn't have put dynamo.
Yeah, no, we'll do all of them. You tell me what next.
Yeah. Let's
the executive.
Start with lover.
I wonder if that's
okay. Executive. Yeah, that's totally what I meant. I
wonder if that's
the executive.
Okay, we'll find out.
So executives are driven by this need to feel emotionally safe in their world, and they tend to do that by planning, organizing, controlling, communicating very effectively. They tend to be very dependable, loyal, good communicators, but it's stemming from this desire to feel safe in their environment. So what is going to be very unsettling and uncomfortable for executives is when things change suddenly And it could be a good thing that's causing that change, or it could be, a bad thing. It doesn't matter. It's about being prepared, right? And so, executives often have, childhoods, for instance, that, had a lot of change in them that they didn't have control over, right? So moving a lot, or a lot of marriages and divorces, or, situations where, their parents weren't very responsible. So you got late to things, or you missed deadlines for things, or you missed camp because nobody signed you up, And so you really took this to heart. So a life lesson for the executive is really checking in. Are these kind of compulsions right now, this really like deep desire to feel like you're controlling everything, is that necessary? Are you safer now than you were as a child, maybe? And maybe we can learn to let go of that and have a little bit more fun. So one of the strategies I have for reducing stress and anxiety for executives is to get silly, to get playful, to go jump on the trampoline with your kids. And they'll be like, what are you doing? What? Like I've had my kids literally be like, we've never seen you run before. And I'd be like, I can run. They're like, I just choose not to.
Right.
I'm going to lift this whole section you just said and send it to my wife just very quietly. Like, I just want you to listen to this,
So
my little executive.
Get her the book. But it's also like I have a whole chapter in the book about communicating. So if you're a dynamo and she's an executive, here's where you align in these areas. And then here's where you can shift how you're talking about things so that, say you come home and you say, oh my gosh, my best friend just said his beach house is available for the weekend and we can go tonight. Like, let's pack up. Let's go. This is amazing. You should see this house. It's like, it's crazy. It's right on the beach. There's like no neighbors. There's a drum set in the living room, whatever. And she might say, hold tight, Alan. Like, we have 2 soccer games tomorrow. Remember, we're supposed to bring the snacks. We have this going on. We have that going on. Like, we can't just jump ship. It doesn't even matter.
I'll be like, yeah, we can.
Yeah. So it's about like knowing she's going to need some prep time and her saying, okay, I can see that this is amazing. What if we go to the first soccer game? We don't go to the second one and we get to the beach by 11:30, like how do you talk so that you're respecting both what triggers one another and what makes one another really like glow and just enjoy life.
That's interesting. And okay, so
Alan would like to hire you for a private session.
Yes, I would. In the true spirit of this podcast, I want to get into like where all this came from in a second, but I want you to pick out of the remaining 3, pick your favorite type left.
I think we should do
and
the
then
fighter.
everybody else will have to go to the book. Yeah. Do what?
Yeah.
Not because it's my favorite, or the quiz. There's a quiz. So you can go to flourishquiz.com and see. But I want to go to fighter because it's different than you would imagine. Because often what triggers fighters is what would be like the most amazing day on the planet for other people. So fighters are people who identify themselves as survivors, right? As strong, as resilient, and they are. And they often will go toward conflict or toward challenge. So if they see an injustice in the world, if they see a bullying situation, if they see something that's unfair, they will not ignore it. They will not run the other way. They will not sit idly by. They cannot help themselves from jumping in. So I say, like, for each of these, I have like, you might know that you're a fighter if you have had friends and loved ones tell you constantly, why are you even getting involved in that? It's none of your business. Like, it has nothing to do with you. Why would you jump in there? And they often also have a lot of ups and downs. So it could be financial windfalls and then financial, like, just ruin. And relationships might be a lot of conflict, right? One relationship after another of, a lot of turmoil. And often it's because this anxiety style was created from a life with a lot of chaos and trauma, where the people in charge of you, the people responsible for your well-being, could not, did not, would not step in to give you the protection you need and deserve. So you didn't feel safe and you became your own protector. And now you're the protector for everyone, right? And the problem with that, so there's beautiful sides of that, right? You're loyal, you're strong, you're resilient, and you might be exhausted. You might really be like ready to have just a healthy, fun relationship, or have some financial security, or, all have a job that's consistent and fun and interesting. And so where's it not serving you? And then how do you get more and more comfortable with a life of ease and a life of, so a lot of fighters will, when everything is good and calm and quiet, feel very uncomfortable and very triggered and unsettled because, okay, I don't, when is the other shoe going to drop? Like this feels, they feel very safe and comfortable when they're right in the midst of the action and fighting, because I know what I'm dealing with, Alan. I know how to deal with people like you, and they're in it. They know. But if everybody's being really nice and kind and supportive, and that's very, very like suspicious, right? Like it's hard to get used to that, like in your body even. Like I have a friend that I interviewed for the book, and she's a fighter, and we had gone to dinner. She had met some new friends of mine, and it was like 5 or 6 women at dinner, and they're all smart and interesting and funny and supportive and kind. And we just had this like beautiful, fun dinner. And she told me the next day that she was literally sick to her stomach driving home.
Huh.
Because
Why?
It was great. There were all these like really amazing people, and it made her really uncomfortable.
Like, do you think it's a chemical reaction to either a lack of
Yes.
cortisol? Can you be addicted to cortisol?
So this is how I explain it, and I think this might answer your question. It's almost as if you're like raised in like the super, high altitude mountains, and you get used to living off of very little, a low oxygen level. Okay. So you come down, you become an adult, things change in your life. You're now in a safe, healthier environment. You're at sea level, you can breathe, but sometimes you want to just like choke off that oxygen for a little bit so that you can remember what it feels like. Because this feels so awkward and uncomfortable to have just all this oxygen all of a sudden. So you almost like metaphorically limit the amount, like choke yourself a little bit. You make yourself a little bit more uncomfortable because that's what your body's accustomed to. It's not accustomed to all of this healthy oxygen. Does that make sense?
Interesting. Yeah.
Wow.
All right, one more quick break. Hang on a second. All right, here's the rest of the episode.
So I'm a visionary. I've taken your test and I'm a visionary.
Oh, look at you, sneaky. Okay.
So I don't know. There you go. You guys.
What does that mean?
Now I need to know what it means.
Dot. Do you want to know?
Yeah, give us the 3-minute.
Yeah,
okay, I'll give you a very
abridged
short
version. Yeah.
So
yeah.
as you could tell by the title of this one, it's not going to be a surprise that you are going to be more future oriented, focused way on the future, on a big impact dream or goal. And what can be often triggering to visionaries is either you really know you're meant for something more, but you don't know what it is yet. That can be very infuriating.
Yeah.
Yep, that's Heather.
Right? Or it could be what it is, but you don't have the time and space to attend to it right now. You're dealing with all this other minutia and tedious stuff that's driving you bonkers, when really all you want to do is spend all your time and energy on this big, great dream. So that can also be frustrating. The third frustrating thing that can happen, and not the only, thought that there's only 3, is when other people don't understand. Like, oh, you have 2 lovely daughters. Like, just enjoy this time with them. Why do you need to be thinking about, solving world hunger right now? What's the big deal? And people told me that as a dynamo when I was at home with 4 little ones, and I wasn't doing anything else. And they were like, what do you mean you're not doing anything else? Like, you have 4 little ones. Like, this is a big job. This is important. Like, this is great. And the truth is, I would have been a better mom if I had started a side business at that time. If I had been doing something creative with my time. But I didn't have the wherewithal to trust myself and ignore the people around me who were saying, you should just be happy with what you have, you know? And so much of what I talk about is, you know, there are plenty of people around you who will have great advice, and there are plenty of people around you who have all the best intentions on the planet. But at the end of the day, you know yourself best, and you have to tune in and trust yourself. And then what's funny is when you do that, like when I did that and took my kids on the road on the tour, you know, there was a part of me that's like, is everybody going to think I'm insane for doing this and pulling all my kids? And you know what happened was how many people it shocked me how many people came out of the woodwork and contacted me. People who weren't like my close friends, but people who were kind of watching from like a few friendships away, and said, you know, I've always secretly dreamed of taking my kids out of school and like moving to Japan for a year. Or I've always dreamed of moving to the mountains and just living in some, like moving out of LA and moving to some tiny town in the mountains in Colorado with my kids. Those are both real examples. Both those families did it.
That's awesome. So you inspired a whole generation of people to go out and experience. That's so cool. So that's their chance.
Where did the...
Right? They happened to stumble upon you doing this, and they embraced that chance. And go ahead, because I know Alan's question. It's a good one.
It was that one little piece of permission they gave themselves because they saw an example. So I guess what I'm saying is you can either be that example for other people by taking that risk that feels uncomfortable, but you know deep down it's the right decision for you. Like follow that, because you never know. First of all, it's going to make you happier. Second of all, you're modeling for your kids doing that, right? So then they're more likely to make choices like that in their life. And third, you never know who else you're going to influence who's been like on the edge of really wanting to do that, but too scared to really give themselves permission.
My kids don't care where we go as long as they can access Roblox, but that's a separate conversation. But what I want to get back to is like, you know so much shit, and that's awesome. And you have 4 kids, and like you're constantly looking out for yourself to make yourself better and all this. That is a string of throughout your life embracing chance to learn more things, to get an education here, to go there and try that, to do all the things that you mentioned. You didn't just come up with these 5 different anxiety types out of thin air. They were created from your knowledge somehow. So back up a little bit and explain, like, at what point in your life was there a point when you're just like, you know what? I am feeling like madness. I need to organize this. I don't know if this is going to work. It probably won't. I'm going to do it anyway.
Like into the book or about my life?
Just your life.
So, well, first I feel like I have to say that I also had a stint in painting, because you guys talk a lot about creativity, right?
Yeah.
So like when I had 2 boys and I stopped working, and no, this started before that. When I was trying to get pregnant and the docs told me that I probably couldn't get pregnant.
Oh, wow.
4 boys later. Yeah.
Right.
Wow.
And so I started painting. I didn't know shit about painting. The only thing I knew about painting was in college. I took one painting class, and the professor was so mean to me. She hated my paintings. They were terrible, and rightly so. That was fine. But she was so bitchy about it that I put down a paintbrush and didn't pick one up for 10 years. And then finally I got so depressed about not being able to be pregnant. I was like, screw Dr. Bessemer. I'm going to paint.
Yeah, screw you, Dr. Bessemer.
I don't care.
Dr.
That's
Bessemer.
her real name. Okay. So
Doctor, don't get pregnant.
She was wrong. You were wrong.
No, she was my painting teacher.
Oh, that was the painting teacher. Well, still wrong.
That was the painting teacher.
Yeah.
So I started painting, and they were terrible, but they slowly got better and better. And I painted on giant canvases with acrylic paint in my backyard. And it was just, totally not anyway, it was fun. It was really fun. And people started saying like, oh, I want one. Will you paint one for me? And will you paint one for me? And I was like, oh, people want to like hang my paintings and buy my paintings. And what was funny, and I think a lot of creative people have this problem where and I'm like this with my writing, but I wasn't like this with painting, because I was like, well, I don't like all paintings, so I don't expect everybody to like my paintings. So like, here's my painting. If you like it and you want to buy it, here it is. It's $250 or whatever. And if you don't like it, that's fine. I don't expect everybody to like it because I don't like all paintings. So I had this kind of loose, just a very different perspective about it. And so I took a bunch of pictures of my paintings and I started going to galleries. And I said, oh, here are my paintings. Do you want to sell them? Because people seem to like them. And they were like, that's not how this works.
You're like, but
you can't just come in here and show us paintings. And I was like, well, okay, why? And they were like, because that's not how it works. And I was like, well, how do you find people's paintings that you like? And they were like, we find you. And I was like, well, how do you even know where I am? And it didn't make any logical sense to me. They were like, no, you go over here and you do this. And then you hope and, you paint for 30 or 40 years. And then maybe somebody finds your paintings before you die,
Yeah, and then you die and then you get popular.
Yeah. I was like, that's stupid. That's just, I don't have time to waste. So I went to a couple cool little boutique hotels in LA and said, hey, what's the time that's not busy for you? And they were like, well, Sunday, afternoon, early afternoons between this time and this time. I said, well, what if I buy a case of champagne and bring a bunch of paintings and invite a bunch of people? Can I have an art show at your hotel? And they said, okay, it was like $300 for them. And it was bringing people in on a time they didn't normally have people. And I started having art shows. And that year I sold $20,000 worth of paintings.
What?
Wow.
And so I don't know what the story behind that is, but I just was like, yeah, the way that you're explaining to me seems like a big waste of time. It doesn't make sense to me. So I'm going to try something different.
I mean, what I'm hearing is sort of the embracing the what's the worst that can happen mindset. Well, first of all, the way you're doing this is dumb. I'll find a different way to do it that'll work. And if it doesn't work, I lost $300 in a couple of hours of my time. It's not a big deal.
Right. And I love champagne.
So already winning.
I'll just drink it later.
Already winning.
What's the worst that can happen? You have extra champagne.
I have a case of champagne in my garage. Okay.
Yeah. I fucking love that.
Well, but so then at some point through all of this, you became a licensed therapist and you've got an MBA in something.
Yeah.
And the schooling and is that all the same thing going together? The helping the people and channeling all of this. Where did that need come from? It's got to be a need.
It is a need. Well, I'm a dynamo, so I'm an achievement junkie. I get high on achieving shit. I love it. It fills me up. It is fun for me. So when I'm not, it's really uncomfortable and not fun. And so, that's one of my life lessons is slowing down, tuning in, enjoying the present moment, celebrating whatever just happened, celebrating wins instead of just immediately setting the next goal and going after that. I know I will always have a next goal because that's me and I enjoy it and that's what's fun for me. But also I don't want to miss out on my relationships with the people I care about and what's important to them and tuning into them. And that's a constant work in progress. That's what's hard for me is slowing down, being quiet, being grateful for the wins I've already had, celebrating. And so one of the things I do as a dynamo is I have another friend who's in a completely different business. She's in the financial world and she is also a dynamo. Every night on WhatsApp, we share 3 wins or things we're proud of ourselves for that day.
I love that.
I love that.
I used to have a wins accountability partner.
Yeah. And it helps you not only just take a moment, get into gratitude for it, because I do think that we can't accomplish the next thing if you're not even grateful for the thing that just happened.
Yeah.
So part of it is on purpose because it's strategy, right? And then the other part is it feels good to slow down and really know wow, look at all I've just accomplished. That was really fun. That was cool. That was amazing. Okay. Now I can still move on to the next thing, but I try to breathe in between.
That was a Andre DeShield's Tony acceptance speech a couple years ago. It stuck with me. He said something about along the lines of the top of one mountain is the bottom of the next, but don't forget to look behind you and see how far you've already been climbing.
Yes, that gave me chills. That's a perfect quote for that concept.
Yep. And that's a core component of my business, actually. I'm certified in positive psychology, like gratitude. I've written gratitude journals. So I love hearing you say that and knowing that you're continuing to put that out into the world, because it really makes a difference. And it feels, I think, for people who go like that, who are dynamos, or I'm sure there are plenty of other types who go and go and go, or we're afraid to slow down.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have time. We don't have time to slow down. We don't have time to celebrate or express gratitude, or it's a waste of time, or, whatever. But it is so profound.
It's so profound. It's so fun. And it's good for your mental health. It's good for the people around you. It's good if you're a parent to model to them. To model to your children. I love it.
And even if people aren't paying attention, they are. Right?
Yeah. Especially kids, too. Yeah. Kids are just watching everything. And yeah, so I think that's, does that lead into the Mecca Project? Help teens and young adults thrive mentally and emotionally through consciousness awareness?
Well, it's one more thing, right? Like, oh, let's do this over here, So, and I kind of want to answer your question before, how you said, when did all of these things, like, when was the order of things? And because I think it's interesting as well. Like, I definitely knew I always wanted to help people. I am fascinated by psychology and why we do the things we do and what's happening in our brain and our mindset that causes us to feel certain things or behave certain ways. And that's what's always fascinated me. And when I got my license, I started doing one-on-one therapy, and I thought, well, this is not what I thought it was going to be. Because I also want to control everybody. I want to help you, and I want to help you. I want to help you, whether you like it or not, whether you're ready for it or not. Like, let's do this. And not everybody that comes to therapy is ready for that. Some need to process and they want to talk it through. And I was like, oh my God, this is like way too slow for me. I'm helping way too few people and it's taken too long and I don't like it. And also I'm a little bit of an empath too. And so I also would keep ruminating about people and thinking about their problems and thinking about different ways I could help them all the time. I had a hard time turning it off. And so to me, creating a little bit of one-to-many situation, I think fits my personality a little bit better. So to me, I thought, okay, well, I love books. I've always written journals, always had a journal. I have 8 million journals. And I thought, okay, well, maybe it's taking all of the skills and tools that I've learned and putting it in a book. And so, so when I wrote my first book, when we were on the tour, I was like, that's how I'm going to help people. I'm going to write books and everybody's going to read these books. And then I came back from the tour. I had I made myself a book launch party and all this stuff. And then
with champagne.
And then I realized, that, okay, not everybody gets their information from books. There's this thing called
That's true.
There's this thing called podcasts and websites and Instagram and stories and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm 47. I'm 48 now. So I was like, whatever, 45 then. And I was like, oh, so I started a podcast. I did 60 episodes of a podcast. And then anyway, there's a lot of stories, but at the end of the day, for me, it's about taking, my gifts and what I enjoy doing and using that to help other people.
That's brilliant.
It is.
And I love that you're able to channel that into scalable efforts that leave a legacy. I've sort of become lightly obsessed with that, not in a I hope I don't get forgotten sort of way, but in a I hope I can leave behind things to make others better and learn from my mistakes kind of way.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I don't care if I get forgotten. I mean, I kind of do, I guess. But I want to leave behind something that someone will discover later. Like these podcasts, we're interviewing now to tell stories of how people are manifesting their own success and their creativity. So leaving that behind, this is the internet. It's going to be around forever.
Yeah.
And it's passionate and it's fun. And it's a lot of work, but because it's fun, it doesn't seem like that.
Right. Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
So
Yeah. So go ahead.
I was just going to say, Amber, you don't seem to have any hesitation sort of embracing opportunity. What I'm hearing you say is, oh, we could do that. Okay, yeah, let's try that. Let's do it like this, right? Just sort of kind of a no fucks given. Let's explore, see what happens. Am I hitting the nail on the head there?
Yeah, I think so.
I think it's lovely. You said that like, am I being judged for it? No, I think it's great.
Well,
that's the log line. That's the log line of her book, Amber Trueblood. No fucks given.
No fucks given. I think that it's, when you do it once and you look back and you say, that wasn't as miserable or scary as I thought it was going to be. And I'm glad I did it. Then the next time you have that opportunity, you're far more likely to do it, to take that risk. And then you look back and say, well, am I glad I took that risk? Yeah, I am. Was it terrible? Like Marie Forleo said in her book, when I started speaking, when I was started with my first book, and I thought, I'm going to be speaking, and people, everybody I told I was going to be speaking said, well, you need to join this thing called Toastmasters, where you go sit in a church basement somewhere and you do these 2-minute talks, and you practice for years. And again, I was like, yeah, I'm not going to do that. And Marie Forleo said, look, you're going to go up on stage for 10 minutes or 20 minutes and you're going to sweat. Your heart's going to race. You might flub up some words. Can you survive that? And I was like, oh, yeah. I mean, I gave birth to 4 people with without drugs and things. I'm pretty sure I could survive 20 minutes on a stage, even if I'm hyperventilating. Sorry.
But to some people,
yeah,
the reverse is insane. They would rather give birth to 40 people a day than to stand on stage in front of a group of strangers. I would rather give birth than
go to the dentist. So I do have my limits.
Wow, I love my dentist. Is that weird? I love my dentist.
Your teeth are so pearly white, though. They make all the difference there.
She's also super hot. My partner and I both talk about how hot the dentist is. So, hey, Dr. Cho, if you're listening, we think you're hot.
I thought we were talking about Amber. I'm like, yeah.
Oh, I mean, Amber's super hot too, but I was never
all
mind.
of us. We're all super hot.
We digress.
Oh my gosh.
So I brought that up, because I see it and I wanted to call it out. And you said something just now that I want to make sure everybody listening absorbs. Take the risk. Just take the first risk and then see what happens. It becomes easier, and also you're likely to surprise yourself in that process. And then that's kind of a nice segue to, but what if it royally fucking fails? What's your relationship like with failure?
Well, when you brought that up about risk, it made me realize that when there's a time and a place and certain people. So if your creative pursuit is painting or is writing, I learned very quickly when I was writing my first book, when I sent it out to people and I was like, what do you think? And the responses I got, were some people literally, my dad printed it out and redlined the whole thing, with his opinions and ideas and things. And, other people were like, well, this feels like it's only for women who have the space and time and monetary level to be able to even think about self-care. And what about those women that don't? And I was like, oh my gosh, what about them? How am I not serving those women? And it got me totally in my head. Well, who am I? Why am, and then the people who are like, yeah, that's okay. And then the people who don't read it, where you're like, oh my gosh, did they hate it? Do they not like me? What, am I a terrible writer? Why am I doing this? So whenever, especially if you don't have the confidence yet in your whatever you're doing, creatively speaking, I believe you have to be very, very choosy about who you share with at what point in your creation, and be very clear about your intention of sharing. Hey, I'm really nervous about sharing this. It's super new. I know it's not perfect and I'm not looking for feedback yet. I'm just excited to share it. make it very clear what you are expecting back, because people have their own ideas. Because there are other people who would say, well, I wouldn't share anything unless I'm ready for feedback. So they must want feedback. Here, I'll give them all the feedback. I'm being a good friend. I'm going to tell them all the things that are wrong with it, because then it'll be better.
Right.
There's a lot of people who respond to your creative shares like that, and it can be soul crushing. And so I think taking risk is so important, and it's your responsibility, I believe, to do it in a self-caring way. And by this, don't share it with your mother-in-law if you know that she's going to rip it to pieces. You know,
she's not your audience.
She's not your audience, or she's not what you need right now. You know, maybe when it's done and it's perfect and you're so confident, nothing's ever perfect. You're really proud of it, and you don't even care if she says that it's a piece of shit, because you know it's not. And then when it's a bestseller, you can say, oh, here's the thing you said was a piece of shit. Look at that.
Oh, mic drop.
What? Yeah. So I would say risk and share with not only with, the right time and with who, but also let them know what you're looking for. Are you looking for feedback? Are you looking for red lines? Are you looking for just like, I need some encouragement? Like, what do you like about it? That's what I want to know. Tell them ahead of time, because they might go spend 4 hours reading it, thinking they're helping you out. Meanwhile, all you wanted was like, oh my gosh, this part where you talk about this, that's really, really funny. Do more of that. Awesome. Everybody wins. They feel like they've helped you, and you feel like emboldened to keep going, because there are so many reasons and chances to stop. And you don't want to give other people the opportunity to give you any more reasons to stop, because you already have those in your head, right?
Yeah.
Who am I to write this? Why do I think I could do this?
Yeah. I think that's so profound and really a lovely reminder. I have this conversation with my kids all the time. Instead of waiting for the world to tell you what to do, tell them what you want them to do, right? So this idea that you've worked so hard on something, you're going to put it out and say, I want feedback. Here's exactly what I need. Here's exactly what I want. Give them the chance to say, I can't do that. I'm not able to do that. I can't read that objectively and not redline it. Okay, then we won't have you read it. We know whatever it is. But if we just sit back and wait for somebody else to come up with the ideas, or to tell us that it's good, or to tell us where we're supposed to be and when,
oh my gosh,
you miss everything. And also you risk receiving things that you don't have any interest in receiving.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It'll take, and you'll be waiting until you're a corpse, like
forever.
And when I started writing, what I did to help kind of teach me was I read books by successful authors about their writing process. So like On Writing by Stephen King, and I think it's called The Art of Memoir by Mary Karr, Still Writing by Dani Shapiro, Bird by Bird by Anne Lamott. And hearing these successful writers talk about their, Anne Lamott talks about the shitty first draft. Every first draft is shitty, and Stephen King, I can't read those scary books anymore. But just hearing about his process was so, because then when it happens to you, you're like, oh, this is normal. This is normal. That's all these writers deal with this type of stuff. Then it helped to normalize the fears and the crappy first drafts that I was writing.
So before we wrap up, I want to go back to pregnancy drumming. I don't think we got back to that.
Look at you. I love it. Okay, so one time, and I also will have to say, so my last name is Trueblood. So also ask me about the band called Trueblood now. Okay, so the drumming. Well, I think we have another podcast gonna happen maybe. So, okay, so one day, and I don't remember what city we were in. It might have been Salt Lake, but after the shows, the kids would change their clothes, and then there would be a bunch of people at the stage door, and they'd go sign autographs and stuff like that, or sign what do you call it? The programs?
The playbills. Yeah.
Playbills.
And the playbills. Thank you. See, I don't know. And So one day we're back there, and sometimes some of the parents you could tell they would be watching to see like whose kid, belonged to whom. And so this dad kind of pulled me aside and said, "Are you, you the drummer's mom?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "Did you drum on your belly when you were pregnant?" And I said, "Yeah, I did." And I never told anybody that.
Wait,
Nobody
but you really
knew that
did?
I did that.
You really did that?
I did it all the time. I don't know why. I'm not a drummer. Not only did I drum on my pregnant, and not like drum, but like pat in a rhythmic fashion on my belly when I was pregnant, often, was when he was a baby in the car seat behind me, like once he was old enough that the car seat faces forward, at red lights, I would drum on the ceiling of the car.
Wow.
Why?
Why did you do that?
I don't know. I don't know.
You patterned it into his behavior.
Yeah. And he's like a ridiculous drummer now. Like, so my 4 boys are in a band together. It's called Trueblood. Dude, they have like 37,000 followers on Instagram. They're about to drop their first Spotify album. Like, it's crazy pants. So they're like a band. So, if you want to talk about risk and creativity, like, you might want to have the band Trueblood on a future episode.
There you go.
Well, followed. I have followed them.
We will do that. That's
on the
awesome.
Igs.
Good luck to them with their Spotify launch. That is so exciting.
It's crazy. It's crazy pants.
So,
All
Amber,
the
when
photos are
does
so
the book come out?
shot.
Well, that's because my husband's a photographer.
Yeah, I know.
You can tell, right? Like, I mean, when does the book come out?
Sorry, yeah. When does the book Unflustered Mom come out? I know it's available for pre-order
yeah.
right now. When's the release date?
Yes. June 6th.
That's so soon. So you are so much fun. This was great. How can folks find
You're
you?
so much fun.
Aw.
They can find me on my website is ambertrueblood.com. Instagram is official Amber Trueblood. And and also anybody who orders the book can go to my website, and I have all these cool bonuses like guided meditations specifically for executives, specifically for dynamos, specifically for visionaries, guided mantras, all kinds of fun stuff like that.
I'm there for some meditations and some mantras. Let's go.
Yay! Yes, it's my favorite.
Well, let's wrap. So that's how we can find you online. Thank you so much. Like, I think we're insta best friends. I have so many best friends now. I can't wait to read the book because the dynamo like meditation shit, it's so hard for me to quiet myself down. I turn to video games. Like, that's my focus because it's requiring me to look and like it makes me tune everything out because it requires a lot of cognitive power. So I can't wait to read the book. And
maybe Alan, you can help me when I do the next in the series, when I do like the Unflustered Dad and then the Unflustered Teen. And so I'll need dad examples.
Yes, I would love to be a dad's example.
They
like to smash words together. I love it.
So just so you're clear, shut the fuck up, Alan. No, I'm kidding.
Well, thank you so much. This has been hands down the funnest podcast interview I've done to date.
And that is our goal. So thank you. Take care. Good luck with the launch. And let's stay in touch.
Thank you.
Bye.
All right, will do. Thank you so much. Bye.
I'm a dynamo.
You are. You are a dynamo.
To
you
the
two
T,
fell in friend love.
yeah.
Am I jealous? Maybe I'm jealous.
Are you?
Are you?
You
You're not going to replace me with Amber, right?
No.
Okay, cool. Then I'm not jealous. She's fun though. I mean, she's the kind of parent I wish that I had been more of. Like, my kids started to hate school, and so I just was like, well, fuck that. We'll take them out of school and do this in a way that lights their little selves up. That's badass.
Yeah,
Homeschool terrifies me.
homeschool terrified. Like, I don't think I would be. I actually would love to talk about that more. Maybe it's a whole other podcast episode of like, I'm a better dad when I don't see my kids all day, every day.
Yes.
So
same.
So
I'm not a
how?
dad, but as a mom, yes.
Yes. So how do you I mean, for her, right? Like this is part 2 later on for her 3rd book that she said she's already writing.
Come back, Amber. Come back.
Come back, Amber. Yeah. Like, yeah, balancing the homeschooling with everything else that's going on and still maintaining your own sanity. God, that's just so much work. And hats off to that dynamo for getting all that shit done.
Yeah, it's cool. I hope everybody goes and takes the little quiz because it's easy and it's kind of fun to learn those things about yourself. But obviously taking chances and embracing risk and all of that comes easier to some folks than it does to others. But I really appreciate the reminder, like, and this shows up unsurprisingly every episode in this show, like, just take the fucking risk. Like the worst thing that could happen isn't even really a big deal, but whoa, what if something great happens?
I really want to read this book. I cannot wait. I think it's going to be phenomenally helpful. And I mean, it's not bad to just listen to the way that that very busy people have organized their own lives and take some advice from that. Because if you're feeling overwhelmed, I mean, take some advice from Anna and Frozen, right? Just do the next best thing. That's all you got to do.
Let it go.
No, that's Frozen 1. I'm talking Frozen 2. All right.
Oh, Frozen 2, of course, which I've heard is better.
That's much better. Okay. Where can people connect with us? Tell us.
Yeah. They can connect with us. You can connect with us, and we hope that you do connect with us. The easiest and fastest way to do that is probably through Instagram. We are at Was It Chance on Instagram. We check our own DMs. We respond to everything directly. We want to hear how you're out choosing bravely. But that's my other show, Choosing Bravely. Same thing, taking intentional risk, being creative, all that fun stuff. But also you can email. Also, you can email us. It's wasitchancepodcast@gmail.com. And it's just us back here. Alan, would we like it if people wrote us reviews and gave us 5 stars and followed, subscribed, all that good stuff?
Of course we would. Yes. Leave ratings, leave reviews. We read them. They help the show grow. Turn to that person next to you. We're like, what's up, person next to me? I don't know you. A, let's be friends. B, listen to this podcast. C, you listen to this podcast too. Now we're Insta friends.
You guys, thanks for hanging out with us. Like always, we have a great time. We hope that you have a great time listening. We'll have a brand new episode for you very soon. You've been listening to Was It Chance, the podcast about embracing opportunity and taking intentional risk for your creative life. I'm Heather Vickery.
I'm still Alan Seals. Talk to you soon.
Bye now.